Hey, once again, this is Kevin. I'm still kind of working through my biblical armies and the armies of early civilization. Now, this one is kind of an interesting one. This is the army of the Midianites, which is they were located southwest of Canaan or Israel today. It's a biblical folk. You find them in the Bible, and it's a very large tribal force. So they were a biblical people, kind of east of the Jordan River and the Dead Sea, and really they dominated this territory right through the 10th century BC. So the biblical accounts of the Midianites were descendants of Midian. So that was the son of Abraham through the concubine Keturah. And you'll see also biblical stories of in the book of Judges of Gideon subduing and beating the Midianites, which is a very, very interesting, very cool story. But you also have their allies, the Amelikites, and all the other kites that were there. So I use this army kind of as a catch-all for nomadic armies of the biblical area. They weren't just enemies of Israel. In fact, a lot of the Midianite tribes weren't enemies of the Israelites. In fact, some of them fought alongside of them. Anyway, let's take a look at this army. It's pretty big. It's chariot figures. Camel riders makes up the bulk of this army, which I think are really nice looking figures. Big camel with two riders on it, one driving and one with bow. So you'll see a massed army of those in the rear. As you can see, there's about 5 very large blocks, and the rest of the army is lightfoot, javelin, bow, and this is an army that you can kind of mix in with a Hebrew army. You can mix it in with a Hyksos army. You can mix it in as allies of Egypt. You can have the wars of the Amelikites and Canaanites. You can really use pieces of this in a lot of your different armies. So anyway, the figures were not painted by me. I bought this army from Simon. And Simon was so gracious as to let me have it. And yeah, I really like it. I need to do a little bit of touch up on it to make it my own, but I certainly don't want to take credit for Simon's wonderful painting. And I think he's quite known within the wargaming world for his contributions to the hobby. He certainly has been a wonderful friend of mine, so Simon Clark. But this is, he was also the owner of several miniature figures, I think Lurkio. But this was an army that really appealed to me because I could morph it and use it with a lot of the other biblical armies that I have as different allies or contingents. He did a really nice style as far as the basing, more of a desert look. I haven't been quite able to emulate what Simon was able to do. He's a master baser, that's for sure. At least, I don't know if you can say that a master. That sounds really terrible when you say that fast. But anyway, he can base figures like a master. Let me just put it that way. Anyway, Simon, I'm sorry about that, master. Anyway, the figures are really nice, really, really gorgeous. I've really enjoyed this army. A massive amount of javelin and bowmen. Really, they just ebb and flow and move, and it's hard to pin them down. And they can move swiftly, and the amount of firepower coming from them can be somewhat devastating. But I thought I would show it as another example of a biblical army and what you might be able to do with it. I think this one is actually quite large, and I don't know if anybody needs a giant, massive Midianite army like this one. But I think having smaller pieces of it certainly would be welcome in anybody's army of that period. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this very short video of another biblical army. Thanks. Bye-bye.